Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. To follow some protocols for the smooth conduct of this session. I request all the attendees to switch off their videos and mute themselves. Queries from the participants will be taken at the end in the question and answer session. You can drop your questions in the chat box during the session. Kindly fill the feedback form, the link for which will be shared in the chat box towards the end of the session. E-certificates will be given only to those participants who fill the feedback form. We request your cooperation in conducting the session smoothly. You need to have 100% attendance in the workshop and you should have secured a 60% of average marks in the daily assessment tests for the e-certificates. We request your cooperation in conducting the session smoothly. A very good evening to one and all present here. I, Ananya, TSM head of the student body of the placement cell, welcomes you all to this workshop on the topic Decoding Mutual Funds, organized by the placement cell Shivaji College in collaboration with Dev Group of Institutions. I thank you all again for joining us in today's workshop. Do you know what mutual funds are? Do you have any questions related to them? Are you eager to know more about them and learn about them from scratch? If yes, this workshop is for you. Mutual funds are one of the highly valued fields of finance that attracts investors to know more about it.
Hello.
Hello, am I not?
Yes.
Hello?
No, you're
Yeah,
now
you
you're
got
audible.
muted, Budget.
Now you are
Now
audible.
you're audible.
Okay. Now, before moving on with the workshop, I would like to invite the person without whom support and guidance this webinar would not have been possible. I would like to invite Dr. Jayata Thakur ma'am, the convener of the placement cell, to address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Ananya. A very good evening to one and all. A warm welcome to our speakers, Ms. Sonika Bansal and Ms. Ranjana Kanogia, and of course, our dear participants. I would like to thank our esteemed principal, Professor Shiv Kumar Sedev, for his constant support and motivation. And I want to express my heartfelt appreciation as well as gratitude to the DAVE group of institutions for collaborating with us and that is the placement cell of Shivaji College, and organizing this very useful workshop. I'm sure that all the participants who join this will be able to enhance their own personal capacity of investing as well as maybe taking it up as a profession. I'd also like to thank the members of the placement cell, particularly the organizing faculty members, Mr. Rajesh, Ms. Urvashi, and Ms. Monica, as well as our wonderful student members of the placement cell for all the hard work that has gone into uh, preparing and organizing this workshop. Thank you so much. Wishing all the participants a wonderful and productive session. I will now hand over the virtual mic back to Ananya. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Today, we are honored to have among us Ms. Ranjana Kanodia and Ms. Sonika Bansal as the speakers for the workshop. Sonika Bansal is a chartered accountant with over 19 years of experience in various finance and accounts positions in both multinational as well as Indian listed corporates. She is presently working as independent finance consultant with corporates, individuals, firms on multiple assignments related with management of finance, accounts, MIS, operations and compliances for the past 4 years. Prior to this, she has worked with HT Media Limited, Hindustan Times, a public listed company in the business of print media, digital media, education, radio business, and leading publishers of the Hindustan Times, Mint, Hindustan, and Fever 104 and Nasha Radio. She has also worked with Huawei Telecommunications India Private Limited for their treasury and trade finance operations involving bank guarantees. Ms. Ranjana Kanodia has around 10 years of experience in training and teaching. She is currently working with Dev Group of Institutions as Senior Commerce Faculty since 2016. Prior to this, she has worked in NIIT Limited as senior faculty and also worked in HDFC as a relationship manager. To gain extensive knowledge about mutual funds, let's move forward to the workshop. I now hand over the mic to the speakers.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you, Jayata ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
So shall I start?
Yes, please, please do.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you, ma'am, for such a great introduction. Let's begin with this session. I'm sharing the screen of the module 1. Just hold on. Is it visible to all?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So, not wasting much of the time, I'm straight away getting into the, the course study and begin with this. What is a mutual fund? Let us first understand. We all know that what mutual fund is a very, popular investment method to park our surplus funds. So basically, a mutual fund is a trust that pools the savings of a number of investors. So let's say there are 100, 500 or maybe 1,000 investors from which invest part of their funds in a scheme, and the fund manager of that particular schemes invests those funds in the debt market and equities securities. So this particular scheme is called the mutual fund. As the name says, that mutual means together. So what are the types of the mutual fund schemes? So there are basically 3 themes to the mutual funds. One is open-ended, another is close-ended, and the third is the interval schemes. So open-ended schemes are those schemes in which the investor can enter and exit at any point in time and invest as per the funds available and redeem as per his convenience. There is no closure date, there is no entrance date to it. The units are linked to the daily NAV of the scheme. Close-ended schemes are those schemes which are basically the schemes which have a closure date for the investment. The investor can actually invest a particular sum of funds by a particular date, and then the scheme gets closed and it is available for redemption only after a set period of time, maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Then interval schemes are again, it's a combination of both open-ended and close-ended schemes, and it remained open-ended during the transaction periods, and then it gets closed, and it is mandatory to be listed on the stock exchange. So how the mutual fund schemes are being managed? So there are 2 themes to it. One is the duration call, another is the accrual call. So we can say that actively managed funds are the duration funds and passively managed funds are the accrual or hold to maturity funds. In the actively managed funds, the fund manager keep on churning the portfolio, keep on finding new investment opportunities, keep on increasing the return in the funds so that the investor can get benefit of the available investment opportunities and maximize their returns. However, it's a riskier theme. Passive funds or the accrual funds are those funds in which the fund manager do not do much trading, but it actually buys the securities and hold till the maturity of those particular securities, and it's a very safer, or it's a good theme for the conservative investors. Then there are exchange traded funds as well, which basically replicates a particular benchmark index, be it equity, be it commodity, and it has it generally opens as a new fund offer and then available for sale and purchase on a stock exchange. If we talk about the equity mutual funds, there are, basis the market capitalization of the companies, the equity schemes are majorly classified into large cap, diversified equity funds, large cap or diversified, mid cap, small cap, and multi cap. So large cap are those companies on the Nifty which have 1 to 100, or rather on the BSE, which have first to 100 companies in terms of full market capitalization. Similarly, mid caps is from 101 to 250, small cap 251 onwards. Then there are equity securities or equity funds are also, there are two themes to these equity funds as well. One, of course, is the dividend yielding funds, and another is the value fund. Dividend yielding funds actually have investment in those stocks of the companies which the share price of those companies do not vary much, but they are good in terms of their dividend payout. So the investor gets benefit out of the higher dividend payout per share. And value funds are those funds in which the share price, there is a growth in those companies. So maybe the share price might be at rupees, let's say 100, and then in 6 months or 1 year ahead, the share price might go up to 400 or 500 rupees. So the investor gets a 400% return while they invest in the value equity funds, which are invested into high growth companies. And then there are sectoral thematic funds also, like pharma, FMCG, infrastructures, technology industries, IT sectors. Then there is one equity linked savings schemes, which is basically is an investment in equity schemes, in equity mutual funds with a holding period or locking period of 3 years, and basis that the investor can get a deduction under section 80C and can save tax up to the value of rupees, can get deduction up to rupees 1.5 lakhs a year. Now coming to the debt funds are basically those funds which are invested into the bond market. So they are, as the name says, it's debt. So the companies or the government or the banks, they borrow money from investors in the form of bonds. So these debt funds could be overnight fund, which is, let's say, which invest into the CBLO market, collateralized and borrowings and lendings operations of RBI, which is an overnight operation. Then liquid funds, which are have a average maturity of, so liquid and liquid plus basically is the category, which have an average maturity of 30 to 60 days, can go max up to 91 days. Then ultra short duration, again into the debt and money market instruments, up to 6 months. Then medium term up to 2 years. Then this is the basically hold to maturity funds. They keep on investing those, they have invested in those securities. And once that securities get matured, the funds come into the scheme and then again reinvested into the new securities. Another theme of debt funds is the duration call. which is basically the fund manager keep on investing the money in the money market instruments which have a roll down maturity. So let's say a scheme has uh, duration fund has a average maturity of, let's say, 5 or let's say 10 years. Then the fund manager would keep all its investment invested in the securities of maturity up to, let's say, 20 days, 20 years, 15 years, maybe 25 years, or maybe 5 years, so that the average maturity of the duration funds comes to 10 years. So duration could be short duration, medium duration, and long duration. And then there are 2-3 categories of the debt funds: dynamic bond fund, corporate bond fund, and credit risk fund, and the gilt fund. So dynamic bond fund is basically as I said, that it's is the investment across the higher duration of the corporate securities. Corporate bond could be, let's say, all the corporate bonds into above investment grade with maturity up to 6 months or 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years. Credit risk are highly risky investments which have investments into a high risk credit papers of corporates which may be unrated or rated below investment grade, which is BBB minus. Gilt funds are the funds which are invested into the government securities or SDL, state development loans. So they are majorly invested into sovereign papers. Then there are fixed maturities, maturity plans, which are basically, it's a close-ended scheme which is being issued as in the form of a NFO. The NFO is remained open for, let's say, 7 to 15 days, and the investors are free to invest any amount in that fixed maturity plan, and it has a fixed portfolio, and it bases the collection made, the fund manager made investments into the securities with the only objective of hold to maturity. And on the maturity date, the investor will get the predefined yield on the investment. Generally, FMP is being issued for more than 3 years to get the tax benefit. Then there are hybrid funds, which is a mix of equity, debt, or commodities like gold or any other commodity. And then this fund is basically for the conservative investors which want to have the benefit of equity taxation, but would also like to have their capital protected and also want to participate in the growth of the equity. Arbitrage funds is a new category of investment, which is basically it is the investment into equity and equity related instruments with a more than 65% investment in equity, and they actually take benefit of the volatility in the stock market. So the more the volatile the stock market is, the more the return in the arbitrage fund. This is the thumb rule, be it on the falling Nifty or on the rising Nifty. So the traders get opportunity to find those investment opportunities and short-term investment opportunities, and then they try to lock in those opportunities present those opportunities in the form of a arbitrage fund. Then these are certain solution-linked schemes like retirement. These are all basically the names. These schemes are more towards the names and has nothing to do with the kind of exposure they are taking. So if we just talk about the retirement fund or children's fund, they are just the name, but the theme will remain the same as has been explained Then there are gold exchange traded funds as well, real estate funds, fund of funds. Fund of funds are basically those schemes which invest in the other mutual fund schemes. Generally, it happens in the case of overseas uh, overseas investment, like individual or retail investor is not able to invest in the blue chip companies available outside India, those best companies of every country. So these schemes, FOF, actually invest in the mutual fund schemes of those countries which have exposure to those companies, like that of maybe Alibaba or Amazon or Apple or Microsoft or any other uh, highly, growing company or a profitable company. So these are funds investing abroad, offshore schemes. So basically, these are some of the mutual funds have also started parking the surpluses or parking the funds into the ADRs and GDRs. So ADR is the American Depository Receipt and GDR is the Global Depository Receipts. So any company which is listed in US, they can issue the American Depository Receipt, and any company listed outside US, they can issue the GDR. Capital protected schemes, again, these are the schemes which are uh, uh, close-ended schemes, and there are two portions to these schemes. One portion is that they invest themselves that sum of the funds into a zero coupon government securities whose maturity is aligned to the scheme's maturity. So in a sense, let's say 75 or 80 rupees out of 100 rupees, for example, remain invested in a zero coupon, so that on the maturity of that zero coupon security, the investor will get, or the fund house will get 100 rupees. So that's how the fund, the scheme is capital protected. And the balance 25 rupees is invested in the options or let's say equity, which can, if the equity market goes in favor, that will bring supernormous returns to the scheme. And let's say if the market tanks, then the capital in the scheme will remain protected because of the investment in the zero coupon government securities. So these are the 2-3 terms which is being commonly used. Net asset value is the current market price of the unit. Repurchase price is the price at which units are purchased or redeemed by the mutual fund. So then one can think that, okay, why one should invest in mutual funds? So there are really good reasons to invest in mutual funds. First, of course, is that it's a very good investment for the beginners investors, or maybe for the conservative investors. It equally provides good opportunities to the aggressive investors as well. I mean, every investor can pick and choose their kind of schemes or their kind of funds available in this industry. Secondly, it is being professionally managed and highly regulated, professionally managed by the team of the mutual fund house, which are highly experienced, very skilled and qualified professionals, and they understand the market. Then it's highly regulated under the aegis of SEBI, and SEBI has been tremendously active in regulating this industry since beginning, and keep on introducing new rules and regulations, and to make it a watertight investment in terms of no risk and no leakages. Then return potentials, it's a liquid also. So there is an option of open-ended schemes. One can make an exit from this scheme and get money in T+1 or T+2 days. and without compromising on the withdrawal penalties, which is the case in case of bank FDs or maybe any other locked in investments of, let's say, post office, or even direct purchases of bonds from the companies. Return is also good in these schemes, especially if we talk about equity. By following the method of regular or disciplined investment through SIPs from the beginning, the investment price or the purchase price actually averages out, and over a period of time, maybe 5 years, 10 years, the returns started to increase phenomenally with the increase in the market. So it is always says that it's good to invest early, especially in the equity mutual fund schemes and through SIP route. So this is so new fund offer we talked about. What is the net asset value? We know that it is basically the market value of the portfolio at any given point in time, or rather as at end of a day, divided by the number of units allotted to the investors. That's how the net asset value is computed, and it is published daily basis for the open-ended schemes. So coming to the fund structure and constituents. So there is a, so this was basically the chapter 1 was basically the how the mutual funds actually works, or what are the products, how it works, who regulates it. So it was a overall idea about the investment per se as a class. Now coming to the industry, the structure of the industry. So mutual funds are, I'll just go through the presentation. The mutual funds are the trust. They are constituted as trust. So as a legal entity, they are the trusts. So they are governed by Indian Trust Act. So they are not private limited company or a partnership firm, or it do not have any individual interest. It is constituted as trust. And this trust is created by one or more sponsors, who are basically the main persons in the mutual fund business. So sponsors are basically those persons who are there in the scheme, and they, unless they are there, I mean, they put their skin also into this investment. So it's not that it's just being, the scheme is just being managed out of the funds of the investors. No, a part of the money, let's say 5%, 10%, has to be contributed, has to be remain invested by the sponsors as well, so that their skin will remain in this in the scheme, and they will always remain interested to make the scheme running and profitable for the investors. So that is the role of the sponsor. Then the beneficiaries in the trust are the investors which remain invested in the scheme of the mutual fund. So every mutual fund scheme is a separate trust. So it's not that the AMC is a trust. AMC could be a private limited company or a listed company, just like we have seen that HDFC AMC is a listed AMC. But the scheme is a trust. So every scheme which is being run by the fund house is a trust. Then they are operations of, and it is the underlying document which governs the operations of the mutual fund is a trust deed, which is executed between the sponsors and the trustees. The trustees, the role of the trustee is basically, as the name says, that is to protect the interest of the investors. So they are the basically the caretakers of the scheme, and they are responsible for managing the scheme in their fiduciary capacity. So everything has to be uh, reported or highlighted to the trustees, so that they are fully aware, and they are known to all the facts and everything pertaining to a particular scheme. So basically, it's not a one trustee. Um, there is a board of trustee which functions uh, through the members trustee, which manages or which actually overviews the running of the scheme, ensuring all the compliances made by the mutual fund house and for that particular scheme, like reporting of daily NAV, the valuation rules of the scheme should not go beyond as prescribed by the SEBI. So there are huge number of compliances which a particular scheme has to follow, considering the declaration made by the fund house to the SEBI, to ensure that whatever declaration has been made to SEBI, the scheme should not fail to perform to those declarations. Then there is a custodian who is appointed by the trustees. The custodian is basically has the custody of all the physical assets or the tangible assets of the scheme. So be it let's say investment in bonds, so the actual investment papers, or gold, so the actual physical gold, or let's say paper gold, then the ownership documents for those instruments, and deed of hypothecation, and ownership documents for the immovable properties, real estate assets. So an example, maybe you can understand it better. So if we know that SBI Mutual Fund is a mutual fund trust, the sponsor is the State Bank of India, which remain invested a part of its surplus funds in the scheme. Then trustee is the mutual fund, SBI Mutual Fund Trustee Company Private Limited, which is basically basically a board of trustee, or maybe a number of trustees, individual trustees forming part of the board of trustees. Then asset management company is the SBI Mutual Funds Private Limited. Custodian are the HDFC Bank or any other bank. Basically, the custodian means the who actually take hold of the investment papers. So let's say Bank of Nova Scotia is the custodian for gold. So they will take care of all the investment related to the tangible gold or to the paper gold. Then RTA is basically the registrar and transfer agent. It's the CAMS, Computer Age Management Services, which is responsible for accepting the redemptions and purchase request, publishing the statement of account for the investors, or handling of any of the regular investment queries or grievances. Then the key constituents of a mutual fund. The sponsor invests in the capital of the AMC. As I said, their skin is there into the game, and so there are certain eligibility criteria for the sponsors, which has been defined by the SEBI as per the regulations. Sponsors should be carrying on business in financial services for not less than 5 years. They should have positive net worth in all the immediately preceding 5 years. They should have earned profit. So they should have a profit after tax after tax, interest and depreciation in at least 3 of the 5 years, including the latest year. So these are the predefined criteria for someone to become the sponsor in the capital of the AMC. And of course, there are certain physical requirements that he should be a fit and proper person and need to contribute a minimum 40% of the net worth of the AMC. So a net worth of the AMC is different from the funds they have collected from the investors. So basically, net worth is not the AUM of the AMC. Net worth is the income of basically the capital which has been contributed into the AMC plus the reserves and surpluses which the AMC has earned over a period of time from the business of management of the funds of the investors. So the 40% should be contributed by the sponsors. The role of trustees, as I said, that they have to ensure that the mutual fund scheme complies with all the regulations and protects the interest of the unit holders or the investors. Then asset management company is basically the legal entity under which the various schemes are being offered to the investor. Custodian we have talked about, caretaker of all the assets of the mutual funds which they have bought from the funds contributed by the investor. Registrar and transfer agents, they maintain investor records, as I mentioned, that they take care of all the sale purchase request and publishing of NAV and the statement of account for the investors. Then, of course, the regular service providers or the support functions like auditors for the audit of the accounts of the AMC, fund accountants who are responsible for daily computation of NAVs and reporting it to SEBI for publishing it. Then the distributors who are basically the channel partners for making the scheme visible to the investors at every corner of the country. So they are the catalyst to the development of this industry, as well as they are responsible for the success of any particular mutual fund schemes, because that's how they can basis their interface only the investor can contribute to a particular scheme. And then there are KYC registration agencies, central KYC, and this. So with this, we have completed the chapter 1 and 2 of the concept and role of a mutual fund and the structure of this industry, how it is being governed or how it is being managed. Basically, the organization structure of a AMC. Now we are going to chapter 3 and 4.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, would you like to take some questions or maybe take a break for 2-3 minutes? Because
Yeah, please. I'm open for the question round for chapter 1 and 2. Please go ahead.
okay, ma'am. So now the participants will be able to unmute themselves. If you have any queries, you can please raise your hands. Or maybe, ma'am, we can have a 5 minutes break so that they come up with the questions and then you can start with the next topic.
Diksha Sharma has raised her hand.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Okay, fine, as you suggest. So maybe we can take a a 2 minutes break, and then maybe they can come up with the questions. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, you can all keep logged in to the meeting, and you can think of whatever queries you have. And after solving your queries, ma'am can go ahead. Ma'am, you can also take a break. It's really tiring for you as well.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Thank you.
So all of you can keep your queries ready, and we can start the next session in 2-3 minutes after solving your queries. Yes, ma'am. So do we start? Do we have any queries? Diksha, please take them up. Ananya or Diksha, whosoever is there. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am, I'll take them up. So, we have one question
Sure.
from. Ma'am, someone has asked, what are the costs associated with investing in mutual funds?
So the cost is cost depends on two things. One is how actively the scheme is, how actively managed the scheme is, and secondly, what is the duration? Just a second. What is the duration call that the fund has taken? So I'll explain this by example. Anything which is invested in, let me first talk about the debt. Anything which is invested in debt mutual funds with average maturity up to, let's say, 3 years or 5 years, with high quality papers, the expense ratio will be very low, maybe up to 1.5% of the YTM. So if the YTM of those schemes is, let's say, 7%, and the average expense ratio is, let's say, 1%, then the net yield in the hands of the investor comes to 6%. However, if those debt schemes take credit calls or take the duration call. Credit calls means the investment in the credit riskier securities. Then the expense ratio could go as high as 4%, but they have a high YTM also. And if they go for a duration call, again, because duration is an actively managed strategy, so the expense ratio would be high. It could be up to 2.5 or 3%. So this is about the debt schemes. And if we talk about the expense ratios of the equity schemes, it could be anything, let's say if it is a large cap or a diversified fund, then the expense ratios would be between 2 to 3%. But will it be a thematic fund or a sectoral fund, let's say banking fund or infrastructure fund or technology fund or pharma fund, then the expense ratios can go high. So it's not, if we have to just conclude, then the expense ratios could be as low as 0.10%, which is 10 basis point, and it could go as high as 4%, depending on the scheme we are investing, depending on the theme we are taking. Am I able to answer the question properly? Is it okay, or you have any further questions related to this? Hello?
Ma'am, I think it pretty much clarifies it. Okay, so I have another question.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, what are the factors that affect the net value asset or the net asset value of funds?
So net asset value is basically the market value of the scheme as at end of day divided by the number of units allocated to the investor. So the net investment value is dependent on the market value of the underlying securities. So underlying security, if let's say purchase at 100 rupees and the market value is now 150 rupees, then the return or the market value has gone up by 50%. So in case of equity shares as the security, the net asset value will depend on the share price of that security. And in case of any bond or corporate bond or gilt, it depends on the price of the bond. So let's say the gilt is yesterday the gilt was available, let's say 10-year benchmark gilt was available at maybe let's say 115 hypothetically, and today it is at 110. So then it has become cheaper. So that's how the net asset value is being arrived at. The market value has, in case of debt, there is a, sorry, I'm just explaining one more thing. In case of debt, there is a principle that higher the price, lower the return. So if the fund manager has purchased at, let's say, 110 or 115 in the example, and now the value of the same security is at 110, then there is a reduction in the market value, which means the net asset value will come down. However, if it would have purchased at, let's say, 115 and the market value would have been, let's say, 125, then it would be the market value will has increased by rupees 10, and so is the positive. It has a positive impact on the NAV, which means that investors have gained in terms of the NAV.
Okay, ma'am. I think that clarifies it. So I would like to ask the attendees if anyone has any other questions, please drop them in the chat box right now or kindly raise your hands.
So Diksha, we can move forward maybe. Sonika ma'am, can we move forward?
Yes, please.
That towards the end of the next topic, we'll have a small quick Q&A round again.
Sure.
Sorry to
Thank
interrupt
you.
you, ma'am. Sonika ma'am, can you please do the chapter 3 and 4 by tomorrow?
It is a very short chapter. It will not take much of time, maybe another 5-6 minutes.
Okay, not an issue. Then please take it.
Yeah, sure. So we talk about the investment per se, we talk about the organization structure of the industry per se, and now we are talking about the, is it visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am, it's
ma'am.
visible.
Okay, so now we are talking about the regulatory environment around the mutual fund industry. So basically, there are 3 regulatory bodies which governs the mutual fund industry. One, of course, is the SEBI. It's the supreme regulatory authorities which governs all the securities, all the entities, mutual funds, depositories, custodians, registrars, and transfer agents in the, let's say, in India. And it keep on publishing new rules and regulations to make it a highly governed industry with very little. I mean, with the investors can actually, trust, can have a trust for this kind of investment category. So the success of mutual fund industry can actually be given to SEBI very tight rules and regulations, and it has grown phenomenally well in terms of its AUM size. Then there are other organizations, self-regulatory organizations like NSE, BSE, MSCI. It's basically a commodity index. So they have their own set of their regulatory compliances, responsibilities, and their own set of thresholds which the trading members have to follow if they want to invest in any of the securities listed on these indexes, on these platforms. Then there is a AMFI, which is Association of Mutual Funds in India. It's basically the interface to SEBI as well as to the mutual funds, and it has been phenomenally well in terms of taking care of the mutual funds interest as well as circulating down the regulations of SEBI to the mutual funds, to the individual mutual funds. So basically, it has been maintaining the discipline of investment and maintaining the compliances between SEBI as well as the AMCs. So I'm just reading the objectives, to define and maintain high professional and ethical standards in all areas of operations of mutual fund industry, to introduce best business practices and code of conduct, to interact with SEBI and to represent to SEBI on all matters concerning the industry, and to undertake nationwide investment awareness program. I mean, everybody would have seen their commercials of like mutual fund Sahi Hai. This is the investor awareness program run by MFI to ensure that the investors are well informed at every forum before they are being, introduced to this investment category, or before even the distributors approach them. So everybody, even the school going children, are also aware of this kind of investment because of the initiatives taken by MFI. And then there are certain investors' rights and obligations. So, I mean, it's comprehensive enough, but let me just quickly go through 4-5 ones. That NFOs other than ELSS can remain open for a maximum of 15 days. ELSS is equity linked scheme, which is being used for getting ATC deduction by the taxpayers. So the maximum window for investment in NFOs is 15 days. If not, units are not allotted within 5 business days of closure of the scheme, then it will be the AMC has to refund the money to the investor. Then receive dividend within 30 days of their declaration. Otherwise, the AMC has to pay penalty of 15% per annum. So, for those schemes which distribute dividends, they have to receive the dividend. Basically, the investors has to receive the dividend within 30 days of declaration by the AMC. So any change in the fundamental attributes of any scheme need to be notified to the investors, like change in expense ratio, exit load, or the theme of the investment. Then to disclose the scheme's entire portfolio twice a year. This is the unaudited or audited financials. Then consolidated account statement basis, the PAN number of the investor has to be sent by mail to every investor who has who has opted for taking the cash statement over email. These are the few basically investors' rights or the benefits available to the investors while they invest in the mutual fund investments. Nomination: investor can nominate their representatives in the scheme. Mutual fund schemes are available or can be held in demat form also. One need not have to visit the AMC or the RTAs to invest in the scheme. They can, from the comfort of their home or remotely, they can invest in the mutual fund schemes using the demat accounts provided by the DP, depository participants. Then publishing of daily NAVs are available. Every month there are the portfolios of debt and equity, or rather every scheme is available on the website of the mutual fund house. One can go and check the papers that they remain invested in the previous month, and basis that they can evaluate whether the investment is isn't safe, has remained invested in the safer securities, or it has moved from safer to, let's say, a bit riskier securities. Then there are certain limitation of rights of unit holders, that if an investor feels that the trustees have not fulfilled their obligations, then that investor can file a suit against the trustees for trust. However, the protections under the Companies Act are not available to investors in a mutual fund scheme, which means that maybe the penalties and the prosecutions which are there in the Companies Act for the directors or for the trustees, that are not available to the investors, that can be brought in only by the specific regulatory authority. Then unclaimed amounts, they need to be transferred within 2 years of the closure of the scheme to the investor education fund maintained by each mutual fund house. An offer document, NFO, we have talked about. This is a new fund offer which is being offered to the public investors for the first time. NFO open date, when the NFO opens, NFO close date, when it gets closed for investment, and the scheme reopening date. This is the period, let's say some mutual funds provides the reopening date as well. On that particular date, the investors can exit from the scheme or can repurchase new units in the scheme. We have talked about close-ended schemes have an NFO open and NFO close date, but they do not have any scheme reopening date. We have talked about the type of schemes. And there are very important 2 key documents like scheme information document and statement of additional information. It is being advised to the investors that they should read all these 2 documents before putting in money in any scheme, to get to know about the kind of the theme of the investment scheme and the caretakers of that particular scheme, to ensure that they are being invested in the correct scheme. And then there are key information memorandum, which is called KIM, which has details of all the mutual fund scheme trustee, scheme name, date of issuance, closing, opening, the plans and options available under the scheme, risk profile of the scheme. This is also again a very, very important document. So these 3 documents, just go through that important points. SID, SAI and KIM, they are to be updated at least once a year. How there are not much changes in these 3 documents, but it is always better to read all these 3 documents to ensure that the investor's investment horizon matches with the objective of the particular scheme. Then basis all these 3 documents, there is a riskometer which is being published by the mutual fund scheme, which talks about the level of risk inherent in that particular scheme. So it could be from low to high, depending on the kind of investment securities that are there in the scheme. So if we just, from this diagram, we can see that a dark blue has a low riskometer, however a dark brown has a high riskometer, which means that the inherent securities are either they are being as invested as a credit call, or they are highly tradable securities in which the interest rates are very volatile and can be changed overnight also, thus giving high risk to the investor. So I think with this we have covered chapter 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And I'm open for any questions for chapter 3 and 4 as well.
Ranjana ma'am, you can probably continue. If ma'am, Sonika ma'am, will you be there around while Ranjana ma'am takes up the paper, the assessment?
Yes, yes, sure.
So by that time, maybe we can have more queries. Do we have any queries, participants, right now? Ma'am is ready to answer. Otherwise, we can move ahead with the session, Ranjana ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Okay, ma'am, kindly close your screen so that I can share. Thank you so much, ma'am. My screen is visible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I guess Sonika ma'am has given such a brief introduction and such a good knowledge about mutual fund. We'll start the practice paper. First question is, when the distributors are impaneled, the mutual fund should be categorized customer relationship and transaction in which of the following ways. तो बेसिकली आप लोग अनम्यूट करके आंसर कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। सबसे पहले तो म्यूचुअल फंड के लिए आपको पता चल गया दैट व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ म्यूचुअल फंड। आफ्टर दैट व्हेन वी आर like impaneled, the mutual fund should be categorized customer relationship and transaction in which of the following way: advisory sale, advisory execution, financial planning, distribution, priority sale, and retail sale. Anyone would like to give the answer? Any of them?
Ma'am, actually answer is already visible.
Yes.
Okay, so okay, just give your scenario. Anyone? Okay. The correct answer is advisory and execution. Why? Advisory is for see, customer relationship and transaction shall be categorized as two-way advisory, where a distributor represent to offer advice while distributing the product, because without advisory we cannot distribute the product. Okay, execution, in case of transaction they are not booked. If they were booked, they will come under the sale, but if they are not booked, they come under the execution. Okay, if you had any kind of query, you can stop me in between, I'll give you the answer of that. Then come to second question, which of these are key advantage of exchange traded fund? Firstly, we have to know about what is exchange traded fund. That is index fund that are listed and traded on exchange like stock. Okay, सबसे पहले exchange traded fund is that index fund is listed and traded on exchange like stock. So A is ETF generally give higher return than normal fund. ETF offer tax benefit. Investor can control the money they have invested as to where the ETF can invest. Investor can buy or sell ETF on exchange or stock exchange at price which are close to current valuation. So the correct answer is investor can buy or sell ETF on a stock exchange at price which are close to current valuation. Why so? Because exchange traded fund are passive fund. Passive fund, basically, ma'am told you. Anyone want to give the answer of passive fund? Students, anyone want to give the answer?
So passive funds, basically, ma'am told us is passive funds are something that we buy and hold for a long term, and they give safe returns.
Exactly. Exactly. So passive fund whose portfolio replicate an index or benchmark such as equity market index or commodity index. Okay, the unit of ETF are traded at real-time price that are linked to the change in underlying index. So basically, investor basically deal in a passive fund because they are long-term and long-handling funds. So they will more deal in that. Okay. Another question is, say true or false, long-term capital loss can only be set off against long-term capital gain. Anyone? Can I repeat the question? Long-term capital loss can only be set off against long-term capital gain. Anyone?
Maybe it is false.
True, it's true
Why so?
because long-term capital losses, long-term capital gains are taxed at a lower rate, and therefore they cannot be set off against a higher tax rate gain, so or loss. So maybe they are therefore taxable.
Your answer is absolutely right and a good explanation. So long-term capital loss can only be set off against long-term capital gain, as you said, and short-term capital loss is said to be against short-term capital gain or long-term capital gain. Okay. Next would be, there are no SEBI regulations regarding the minimum or maximum commission that distributors can earn. Anyone, true or false?
I'm true.
True. Why? Why? Yes, please. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes. Okay, so there are no SEBI regulations regarding the minimum or maximum commission that distributors can earn because SEBI never deals in the distribution of commission. So this is true. Then next question, the actual performance of an index fund can be better or worse than its benchmark due to anyone, arbitrage error, tracking error, systematic risk, investment objective. As I told you, index funds that are listed and traded on exchange like stock. So which risk or error would be the answer? It's okay if you will give the wrong answer. I'll not say anything. You can give the answer. Anyone, please? Okay. Tracking error. Tracking error. An index scheme mirrors the index. The fund manager of index fund invests in the same security which are in index and in same ratio weighted. However, there could be some minor difference and that is due to tracking error. So the main line is, however, there could be some minor difference and that is due to tracking error. So main thing is that the error which occurs is called tracking error during the time of actual performance. Next question would be the main purpose why SEBI has issued norms for investment by mutual fund scheme. Anyone? Get better return by mutual fund scheme, improve the credit rating of mutual fund scheme, protect the interest of the mutual fund investor, protect the interest of the mutual fund industry.
Ma'am, C, protect the interests of the mutual investors.
Okay, very nice. Why so?
I guess
So
it is
that
answer
the
A.
mutual fund industry doesn't cheat with them.
Okay. Okay, so correct answer is protect the interest of the mutual fund investor. Very nice answer you had given. Security and Exchange Board of India had mandatory strict check and balance in the structure of mutual fund and their activities. As you said, because of protection, that nobody will cheat them, so they will protect their interest. Next question is, what is the tax applicable on the income earned by the mutual fund scheme? First, income earned by a mutual fund is exempt from taxes, 10% plus surcharge and cess. It is a function of managerial rate of tax applicable to respective investor in the mutual fund scheme. It is a function of the type of income, since dividend, short-term capital gain, and long-term capital gain attract different taxes. So, anyone wants to give the answer? What is the tax applicable on the income earned by the mutual fund scheme?
It's D.
B. Okay. Any other person?
Ma'am,
Why?
it is answer D. It is the function of the type of income since dividends.
Okay. And why? Why you had chosen that?
Ma'am, I have just think about that key, like we have to give income tax on our incomes. If we earn more, we have to give more tax.
And why you had given B answer?
No, it's not B, it's D. D.
D. Okay. Okay. B.
D for Delhi.
Okay. So basically, the correct answer is income earned by mutual fund is exempt from taxes. क्योंकि prevailing tax law in India, a mutual fund income is exempt from income tax. Since mutual funds are constituted as trusts in India for the benefit of unit holders, so mutual fund is exempted from every taxes.
Ma'am, do we have to give any kind of stamp duty or like that in on mutual funds?
Yes, that is of 0.005%.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so it's basically the income it receives in the capacity of the holder of the investment, not by the taxation of the income earned from the mutual fund. Got it?
Thank you, Sonika ma'am. Next is, which of the below investor will require the approval of board before investing in mutual fund? Anyone? Non-resident investor, institutional investor, high net worth investor, retail investor. Which of the below investor will require the approval of board before investing in mutual fund? Okay. So the correct answer is institutional investor. Authorization will be required from the board of institution to invest. This is typically in the form of board resolution. So this is basically a board resolution to invest. So the correct answer is institutional investor. When compared to goal-based financial planning, comprehensive financial planning requires more time commitment. True or false? Anyone? When compared to goal-based financial planning, comprehensive financial planning requires more time commitment.
Ma'am, false maybe.
Okay, the correct answer is comprehensive financial planning captures the estimated inflow from various sources and estimated outflow from various financial goals.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
Including for plan. Okay, next question is, which of these expenses can be charged to a fund. Office salary of fund management team, rent of
Ma'am, I think the slide is hanged. The document is hanged.
Hello.
I think we have some technical glitch, some network issue with Ranjana ma'am. In between, if you have any queries, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll just wait for ma'am to start. Ranjana ma'am? So participants will be sharing all the study material with you. Please be active in responding to the questions which are being asked so that you are able to prepare well for your NISM certification. If you have any queries, you may ask. Diksha, if you have any questions, you can ask. Sonika ma'am is there.
Yes, sure.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, we have a question. If you know how much tax benefit can ELSS provide, and for what duration?
So ELSS is, as I said, that it's a equity linked savings scheme, and this is for the taking benefit under as a deduction under section 80C. So it's the maximum amount which an investor can invest in ELSS and take tax benefit is 1.5 lakhs. So an investor can invest as much as they can, but up to 1.5 lakhs only they can get the deduction. And this deduction is 1.5 lakhs limit is the limit for a year. So another year, next year, they can again invest 1.5 lakhs and take the deduction. And the tax rate or the benefit is basically depending on the income slab under which that investor or that assessee is there. So it could be 20%. That investor could be under 20%, could be under 30%, or could be under 10%. So tax rate would be basis his or her taxable income level. And the one more thing, that this is the deduction. Let's say after 4-5 years, the investor redeems this investment in ELSS, then any gain made in this scheme will be taxable again. So it's not that it's a tax-free instrument forever, but it just gives the deduction, and any gain on it will be or should be offered to the taxable authorities in the year of redemption.
Thank you, ma'am, for answering that question. So, ma'am, we have another question. Is there any additional taxes applied or any additional charges for applying to companies, applying for funds in companies abroad?
You mean to say that any non-resident or any company outside India taxation?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So non-residents are subject to a different tax rate. So if firstly they are subject to the TDS reduction, And if they declare that they have to sign declarations to it that they do not have any income, any other income from India, and this is the only income. And this income, subject to the minimum taxable limit of 2.5 lakhs, basis that only their taxation will be computed. But uh, mutual fund houses, they generally deduct TDS on the gains made by the NRIs. And for the companies, basically they are foreign companies or FIIs, so they are subject to 40% tax rate on any gain which they make in the mutual fund schemes.
So, ma'am, is it an issue if the
Sorry for the interruption.
Ranjana ma'am has joined us back.
Ma'am, now my screen is visible.
It's
Ma'am, my
it's
screen is visible
getting
now.
ready. It's getting ready, ma'am. It's not visible. Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay. Shall I start, ma'am?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So next question is, which of these expenses can be charged to the fund, sorry. Office salary of fund management team, rent of AMC registered office, AMC general administration expenses, custodian and fund administration fee. So custodian fee, ma'am told you about the custodian, and what is the meaning of custodian fee? That is an amount of money charged by a bank or the other financial institution for managing your account. Next is your fund administration fee. That is the cost of having your assets professionally managed. So what is the answer? Anyone wants to give the answer of that?
ma'am, I think C, AMC general administration expenses.
Okay. Any other person? So correct answer is custodian and fund administrator fee. As I told you, custodian, ma'am told you that custodian, that person is taking care of your funds, your like assets, and fund administration fee is the person who is professionally manage your asset. Okay, another is Mr. X invest in liquid form at 4 p.m. and the fund are not available for investment the same day. What will be the applicable NAV in the case for allotment of units? I guess ma'am gives you the answer of that. Overnight and something she explained you. Anyone? Mr. X invests in a liquid fund at 4 p.m. and the fund are not available for investment the same day. What will be the applicable NAV in this case for allotment of units?
It's D.
Anyone? B. Why?
D for Delhi.
D. Okay. D. Why?
It's D for Delhi because for liquid funds, the applicable NAV is the preceding day NAV. So if the funds are not available the same day, then but the application has been received, or maybe yeah, so then the same day NAV will be applicable, which is the closing NAV of the day of the date of application, or maybe the day funds are available. So yeah, a bit of confusion. So basically it's the day when the funds are available. Yeah.
Okay. So the answer is, correct answer is closing NAV of the day preceding the day fund are available. And the explanation for liquid fund, irrespective of the time of receipt of application, where the fund are not available for utilization before the cutoff time, without availing any credit facility, closing NAV of the day immediately preceding the day on which the fund are available for utilization. So main objective and the main line over here is closing NAV of the day immediately preceding the day on which the fund are available for utilization. On the same day. Okay, next would be which tax is payable on the redemption of unit of equity oriented fund. That is dividend distribution tax, security transaction tax, wealth tax, alternative dividend tax. Anyone?
Securities transaction tax.
Okay, very nice. But why? Okay, security
Ma'am, it is the tax
transaction
given to
tax.
the NSD.
Okay. Okay. Security transaction tax is a tax payable in India on the value of securities transacted through a recognized stock exchange. So the correct answer is STT. STT is payable on sale of unit of equity oriented mutual fund. So that is the tax which is basically payable in India on the value of securities transacted through a recognized stock exchange. Next question is, arrange these funds according to their risk sequence highest to lowest. Okay, first one is capital protection oriented flexible allocation monthly income plan. Next, flexible allocation monthly income plan, capital protection oriented. Then third one is monthly income plan, capital protection oriented and fixed allocation. D, monthly income plan, fixed allocation, capital protection oriented. So, anyone?
B.
B for boy, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, the correct answer is B. As ma'am told you before, flexible allocation, monthly income plan, and capital protection oriented. So higher risk is flexible allocation, then in between monthly income plan, then lowest is capital protection oriented. So one option is not present here, which is fixed allocation. So highest risk is flexible allocation, then fixed allocation, then monthly income plan, and after that, capital protection fund. Okay. Next question is, on every new business day in the morning, the time stamping machine is set to serial number 1. And the application received on that day are affixed with time stamp and serial numbers starting from 1. Is it true or false? Because I don't think so that every business day morning, every serial number would start from 1. Because if someone is coming after the serial number 10, then another day we will not count him as a 1. So what is the correct answer according to you? True or false? Am I audible?
False.
False. Okay. Any other person? Okay. Correct answer is false. As I told you that if we mark someone as 10, serial number 10, and another morning the person will come, that will never be come under serial number 1. That will be come under whatever the next day or date, what is the next number. So the answer is false. Another question. A company wishes to invest a specific scheme of a mutual fund. Which document authorizes it to do so? So what was the answer? The memorandum of association, the article of association, shareholder resolution, specific board resolution. So anyone wants to give the answer?
B. B. Specific board resolution.
Okay. And why you have chosen that? Not an issue. So the correct answer is
Yeah.
yes, please. So correct answer is specific board resolution. And why? Specific resolution has to be passed in the board of director meeting for investment in a mutual fund scheme. So that is a specific board resolution. The next question is,
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, one thing.
yes,
Will we be like sharing a practice paper also with them?
yeah, sure, ma'am.
So I think after this question we can like discuss the process of that, so that today is the first day, so maybe we
Okay,
can
not an issue.
yeah,
I'll do that part on another day, on second day, tomorrow, I guess.
fine, ma'am. So we can just explain them the process of how they have to attempt that assessment paper, and then maybe we can wrap up for today as you wish.
Guys, I'll send you the link of the form, like Google form, in which you have a question paper, practice paper, and there would be 25 questions. Okay, and you have to attempt. There would be solution as well as explanation of the solution, so you can read that. And do you have any kind of query, you can ask to Sonika ma'am or to me. Whenever you're like able to ask, you can ask me on message, you can ask me on call or in the like our meeting. You can ask the question and you have to attempt the complete questions, and there would be no negative market, so you can attempt all the questions, and it will help you, it will definitely help you in clearing the exam. Please attempt. If you had kind of query, you can talk to any person like your team as well as Sonika ma'am and me. And if you had any query, you can ask me now.
Ma'am, so all the assessment papers that are given to us daily, they'll be marked, and only an aggregate 60, someone who has aggregate 60% will be allowed to give the NISM 5A test, right?
Yes, exactly, because that will help you in clearing your exam. Any other person wants to ask anything, you can ask. So I'll send you the link in the group, and you have a time in the morning 12. You have to submit that paper. You cannot linger on because that is very important for you. You can submit it 12 by the noon. Okay. If you had any kind of query, you can ask. Okay, Urdushi ma'am, now over to you. I explain everything to them.
Fine, ma'am. Thank you so much. So Bache, you can carry it forward.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all the questions with so much patience.
Ananya, you're not audible.
Am I
Yeah,
audible?
you're getting muted. Yeah, now you're on.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all the questions with so much patience. I think we have completed all our questions. We are sharing a feedback form with you all, and everybody is requested to fill the form. We would I would like to invite I request you all to switch on your cameras for a quick photo session.
Ranjana ma'am is not visible. Ranjana ma'am, are you there? We would love to have you. Fine then. Thank you so much, Sonika ma'am. Bache, you want to share any other information?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Anything
So,
else you want to share?
everyone, yes, ma'am. So, everyone, the assessment form will be shared on the WhatsApp group, and everyone is supposed to fill it to, and you will be marked accordingly. Now, if you have any other doubt, you can share that on the WhatsApp group too. We'll revert back to you. Now, as we end the first day of our workshop on mutual awareness, I would like to express gratitude to Sonika ma'am and Miss Ranjana ma'am for imparting so much knowledge to the students and faculty at Shivaji College. And we look forward to seeing you in the workshop in coming days. I would also like to thank the attendees of this webinar and the organizing committee of Placement Cell for putting together this webinar. Hope to see you all tomorrow too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. You
Thanks
guys
a
are
lot.
very cooperative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye bye.
We
Thank
would
you.
want all the participants to please do attempt the assessment that will be shared with you shortly. And please do take good advantage of the offering to you, like Sonika ma'am and Ranjana ma'am are working so hard for you people. It will be really beneficial for your CVs. So do take active participation in all the assessments and during the sessions.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Bache. Great team,
Thank
great
you.
effort, and we would be rewarded only if all the participants, gain something and they do participate actively. That is the only goal with us. Thank you. So, do we end the session, ma'am? Yeah. Okay. Take care, all of you. We'll see all of you tomorrow.
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Okay.